So RuneScape Dragonwilds came out a couple of weeks ago, stealth dropped out of nowhere, and maybe just because they'd heard about Oblivion, the remaster also maybe shadow dropping, didn't want to necessarily compete, and it was probably a good call. It was actually a great fun little game. I've sunk about 25 hours into it, completed pretty much nearly everything you can do, including the final boss fight, for now at least anyway, remembering it is an early access title of course, and I've definitely had fun doing it with some of my ratbags and pals. So today, I'm going to talk about what they've got planned with their update that just went live and what's going to be worked on in the future. Then I'm going to give you my opinion in a bit more detail about what I liked about RuneScape and what I definitely feel needs improving. So, Eye of Ashenfall, this is what they've called this update, 0.7.3, went live actually on Thursday, May the 1st. Cloud saves are now working, so you should be able to transfer properly from either your Steam Deck to obviously normal Steam or any other PC to another PC or gaming device. Velgar Meteor Fix was apparently doing it a little bit too much, especially on your base. So now you'll have protection when you're inside your base from the meteors raining down. No more getting poisoned or you literally just having a kip. And there's a bunch of fixes and stuff for like improvements with full inventory, especially completing quests. Apparently the goblins in the Vertenis Caraval were actually hard to find. So they've been brightened up a little bit and you'll now be able to find Spitfoot. AI status effect immunities have all been checked and should be working correctly. Fix for ashlog duplication in the Shattered Plains. Few areas in the world where players can get stuck have been fixed. Client desync and stuff, especially with range combat and multiplayer world, should feel a bit better. Bloodwood sap can now be gathered from the respawned Bloodwood sap. On controller, the LB button now works correctly in the crafting menu. Continued localization fixes for missing translations. Couple typos. Chests that you interact with when you die are no longer locked forever. Lots of XP balancing for Splinter. Does look like it is going to be reduced a little bit. And fixes for beards, clipping through stuff, blood FX, and your gravestone should be different colour to everyone else's now. And then they've got just at the bottom here, they're working with the art team to explore feedback around the bloom and blur options. They like the aesthetic and the art style, and it makes the game so pretty, but they do want to make sure it's right. They're also saying they're going to outline what you can do with modding. They're going to have a distinct news post when they've got that organised. It does look like hopefully we'll get some clarification and people want to add mods and stuff. It does look like maybe they're going to support it. And it does look like in the next few updates they are going to be focusing on adding the magic skill as well as the range skill properly with actual perks and stuff that you can unlock. And that will be shown off in an upcoming video. So all in all, fairly good stuff. RuneScape's a popular game. 84% positive at the moment. 15,000 reviews with a peak of 52,000 people playing it when it launched. I reckon that has definitely obviously hit around 1 million copies sold, if not maybe even more. Quite a big drop off though, even more than usual, and I've been covering these games for years, like just about 3 weeks since launch, and to drop down to only 9,000 peak in the most recent 24 hours does indicate that maybe the content in the game just isn't that much yet. I know it seems like it, there's lots of biomes, lots of dungeons and stuff, but you can relatively rattle through that pretty quickly, and I did it in like 25 hours with a bit of help. For sure, with a focus on building, yeah, you can easily put another 20 hours on that if that's your jam, but not really mine. So it's natural for people to then just hop off, and we've had big competition with things like Oblivion. But in terms of pure competition, like when have we had a big fantasy survival game recently? Enshrouded's pretty much the only one that springs to mind. Valheim's more Norse mythology. With the brand recognition of RuneScape, obviously that was always going to help this game do well, and probably right decision to just shadow drop out of nowhere. But definitely think that was done to kind of avoid, maybe they got wind that Oblivion was going to release at a certain time. As yeah, for sure, there's a few things that puzzled me why they weren't complete. But all that said, I kind of like RuneScape more than I liked Enshrouded when it first launched. I was hyping up Enshrouded big time. I covered it on my main channel, and you may see more of it here on this second channel now. But there's something about RuneScape, it just seems a little bit more survival focused, and I kind of hope they don't lose it. Some parts are pretty generic, which we'll explain in a bit more detail. I think the world's great, the biomes look gorgeous, definitely got their own unique style and elements. Dungeons are fun, but they definitely need more variety and just the feel and the look of some of them. So the world is gorgeous, I like the art style. I know the characters look a bit generic, and yeah, I am kind of getting a bit tired of seeing these same type of Fortnite-esque characters in pretty much every game. But I think they just about do enough with it to make it stand out from others. I love the idea of the dragon boss roaming around. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more mini bosses. I really love the Abyssal King, the basically big clawed creature that roams around the swamps and maybe some of the other biomes. That was such a surprise to see it in more than just one biome. Be nice if they had a bit more specific abilities for each one, but yeah, it was still pretty terrifying and challenging. And I like that idea of having them roam. And combat is definitely something that needs still work and more balance in improving on. It does still feel a bit like some of the enemies are just simply way too powerful for a melee build. Maybe a bit of extra work on the parry system. But otherwise, I would say it's still pretty decent. The magic is cool for sure. And going through the steps and being able to craft the runes and make sure you've got enough on you with all the abilities that you get from it is really good as well. Definitely want more improvements with some of them though. Like the one that chops trees. I wish it was just like a auto thing that went to like 3 trees in any kind of nearest radius, rather than you trying to stupidly line up a couple trees. It would be nice if there was like an agility skill that gave us a double jump and left the magic jump specifically for much higher maybe vaults that you need to do, places to get up higher. But yeah, it does feel like jumping's probably a big letdown in the game. And I know for that reason, that's why you're meant to use the magic jump. It's still kind of just really janky, not being able to climb up a tiny little bit of rock, or just add some sort of mantle system. The abilities to go ahead and mine stuff though, I really like that as well. It just makes it a bit more interesting. It'd be cool if there was some resources you could only get by using your magic abilities. But I like the crafting systems. I like the fact that you have to have different crafting benches, lots of refinement going on, and there's lots of things that aren't maybe explained enough. Like the fact that all that storage that you've been able to make, if you make the specific storages, you can actually use them on the crafting benches, and your stuff that you make will be deposited into it rather than just on the floor. Definitely though, controller input and inventory management still needs a lot of work, especially on controller. Some of the buttons just feel a little bit too, not normal I would say, with some of the shortcuts. But this is a great start. I think there's a good amount of content. Like I said, I blitzed through it with pretty much one and a bit of extra help from another rat bag. I've probably got maybe 2 dungeons I haven't completed, but I have managed to upgrade or unlock pretty much every armor set. And as I said, we killed the boss and I've got everything that you needed to summon it. And yeah, I totally agree, things like the bloom have to be reduced. That was probably one of the first things I said. It's just way too much. I understand it's meant to be an art style, but it kind of just is overbearing. So what I want to see added in future, and I know they've had some tentative roadmap plans, but it would be cool to have more things like animal husbandry. The usual stuff you've seen in other games, it just kind of makes sense here. Breed your sheep, get your wool, that kind of stuff I think would be good. Absolutely, I can't believe it didn't launch with the magic perks and the skills, given there's so much emphasis on magic. It was something that was bugging me. It just seems so weird that you would not have it in. And for that reason, magic has felt a bit OP, because I guess they haven't been able to add any effects to it and stuff, or perks, so maybe they've just made it overall feel stronger, but it does feel like it's the best way to go. Admittedly, as long as you've got a good amount of distance between you and enemies. It would be nice as well if the armor sets were a little bit more different from each other. It feels like kind of just boring that you only really increase one stat as you wear them, giving that bit of extra protection. It'd be nice to see actual maybe perks on the different armor sets, even if they're obviously the mage ones, but maybe they could be branched out into different kinds. And again, since there is so much focus on magic, it'd be nice to have different schools of magic. Like again, I've never played the original RuneScape game, so I've got no clue what it's like there. But typical sort of stuff, fire, more frost, more poison, more, that kind of stuff. That'd be something that'd be nice to grow so you can make kind of subclasses. And stealth definitely needs a bit of an improvement. Doesn't really feel like it's that much of a viable one. There should absolutely be maybe a quick time kill if you can sneak up on certain enemies. And maybe as you grow it, that can improve so that you could take on even bigger enemies with a stealth kill, or at least do a lot of damage. At the moment, it just feels like it's not really there. I know you can get more critical hit shots from using a bow at range and stuff for unaware enemy, but they do kind of sense you from a good distance away. Choice of enemies, well, yeah, I think the main enemy is the goblins, so you can't really ask for too many more. And when you take into account a lot of the wildlife, I actually think it's a pretty decent start. And there are different types as well, with the Garou as well, being like these weird sort of dog, cat, wolf creatures. It's definitely challenging when you go in and take some of these places on if you're going a bit too early. And when it comes to food and that system, I do think that whole thing needs a big revamp. It's just quite frankly kind of lackluster. Food only regenerating a couple of extra ticks per hit or whatever if you've got a full food bar. You should absolutely lean into more of the foods doing specific jobs. There's a few of them that do it, obviously, that give you like poison protection or little stamina boost. But yeah, I feel like that whole system needs a good rethink as well. It's too easy just to eat the most common food and not worry about things, or have any real reason to go ahead and craft better food. The base building, yeah, it's really good. I love the magic ability to do pretty much building in a first person and just hover around. That is game changing. Kind of a lot of the other base parts though feel a bit basic, and it would definitely be nice to see more tile sets that look distinctly different. I quite like the raid defense aspects. I think it's important for games to have a reason to have a base rather than just be pretty. So I wouldn't mind if they leaned into this a bit further with defense pieces and stuff like that. You know, you had to think a little bit, a bit like Valheim. You can absolutely have a great home, but you still got to think a little bit about danger going forward. Although right now it's just more annoyance than anything having these goblins attack. Definitely should lean towards being a bit more filled with different types of enemies as you progress. And I hate to say it, but I am pretty much like Valheim. I much prefer that system to Enshrouded's just nothing happening at your base. And I'm still not sold on all the loot kind of drops that you find with so many scrolls and schematics that you've just previously learned. I honestly think it'd be better just to have an actual proper tree that you could pick stuff if you wanted to, or just traders that you could buy some of the stuff from. It's so disappointing going up to another chest and finding out, yeah, it's another scroll that you've learned. I know they can't keep just adding stuff to it, obviously, but I would actually just remove it and change it around, give it to a trader to buy that kind of stuff. I do like the fact that certain weapons and gear you can only get by going and completing certain things. I love the idea of the puzzle element at the beginning with the Mage's Guild and being able to use the orb. More of that is definitely something I'd like to see added. And maybe some obvious things as well, things like having some sort of glider. I know everyone's doing gliders because of Breath of the Wild, and we have kind of got our jump ability. Maybe there can be an upgrade for it where you kind of hover down a lot easier and don't lose any kind of life at all. Or just grow some magical spectral wings. The potential is there. Whether or not it's going to be delivered, I don't know. The game's obviously successful enough. Looking forward to obviously new content and more. So yeah, I'm going to keep up to date with it. I'm adding it to my rotation for sure. Any future updates, even if they're going to be a bit small, I'll keep you guys in a loop. And I'm thinking of ways that I can make some more content on Dragonwilds. I've done a bunch of guides, of course, and I've done lots of live streams. But I think the next update I might actually, if they add like a magic class and stuff, I might do a brand new, fresh Let's Play. So yeah, great game for sure. Lots of potential. Let's hope they can iterate on it and add more of what people want to see. And of course, you guys let me know what you want to see added to RuneScape Dragonwilds. I'll see you RATBAGGERS later.